back of the rim. Garnett on the slam and blow. Curry way downtown. Oh, what a shot from Curry.
The NBA has been extremely unpredictable as of late, which, if you're a fan coming over from the 2010s, it's a very nice change of pace. For the first time in NBA history, we are going to have a 7th different champion in 7 years. On top of that, I'd say we're currently watching a conference finals almost nobody realistically thought was going to happen this year. This on the heels of the Dallas Mavericks making what I would call a surprise run last year. So what exactly is happening? Let's go over why these last champions have failed to repeat pretty much since the 2020s began, what else has been changing in the league, and what it might look like going forward. And if you think the NBA has been unpredictable lately, just wait till you try your luck on Chanced. This week, as part of the May Day Week 3 tournament, they're handing out some massive prizes with 5,000 in sweep coins and 50 million in gold coins. This one's running from May 20th through the 26th, and the prizes also vary through places. So whether you're trying to maximize your sweep coins that you can redeem for real cash prizes, or just want to rack up gold for the leaderboards, this is the week to be active. As always, it's free to sign up and play, and when you sign up using my link in both the comment section and description, you immediately start with 5 sweep coins and 50,000 gold coins free. No VPN needed, no crypto or weird tokens. Just sign up, verify yourself extremely quickly, and you're in. Redeeming sweep coins into cash takes no real time. Just instant redemption that is backed by some of the biggest banks in the world. Once again, the link is in both the comment section and description, and for these huge prizes, you don't even need the same amount of luck it apparently takes to repeat in the NBA. I doubt it's even remembered at this point, but the Golden State Warriors dynasty took some incredible luck to begin with, as them being able to assemble the Justice League kinda started when they got Steph Curry on a discount due to him being habitually injured early in his career. So by the time he was playing pretty close to the best player in the world, he wasn't getting paid like it, and boom, a bunch of other weirdly convenient circumstances fall into place and Kevin Durant is a Golden State Warrior. Really, this team was probably supposed to win at least 3, though they were stopped by the unit who would kick off this era. So with injuries being the very obvious reason Golden State wouldn't go on to just win 3 straight, the Toronto Raptors of all franchises would take the mantle. Kawhi Leonard had just commenced a run so dominant, there were serious conversations about him being the best player in the world. Though the new conversations were centered around the thing we kinda knew was coming, what was he actually gonna do? He didn't ask to be in Toronto. There'd been massive hints he actually would have chosen LA, but he just won another championship. If he were to stay, there was a great chance they would at minimum get out of the East again. Yet no cigar. Funny enough, the parting choices centered around both Los Angeles teams, one of which contained LeBron and Anthony Davis, who, if Kawhi would have chosen to join, would have just caused a lot of the same problems in the league Golden State had just done. So fortunately for us, Boardman got paid, instead for the Clippers. And thus, the super team era as we knew it was officially over. Very, very interesting point in the timeline, by the way. If he goes to the Lakers, who knows what we're looking at. Given the way the 2020s have played out, this was crucial. The Raptors remained a good team for a little while after Kawhi's departure, though with significantly less chance to repeat, and the delusion just kind of had them hanging on to pieces they probably should have traded. So we'll get to how their fall from grace helped open up things in the East. In the meantime, the unit Kawhi shunned went on to take advantage and win the bubble championship. The Los Angeles Lakers looked dominant most of the 2020 season. A lot of the argument about the bubble ring just has to do with health and the time they had to recover they might not have had in a regular flowing season. Regardless, LeBron and AD winning a championship in year 1, especially with the supporting cast they had, was never anything too out of the ordinary, and as a matter of fact, they were actually expected to win multiple, starting here where they would enter the 2021 season, and in this Western Conference probably be favorites to just go ahead and go back. There were some good teams, but nobody you could look and say you fully trust to dethrone a LeBron and AD led team. Also, given how the Clippers went out, there just wasn't a ton of faith. They had to go prove it. Except as we now know, we just never get the Battle of LA. And while it definitely started in the bubble, this was the biggest hindrance. Yeah, turns out LeBron having his foot crash dove into kind of changed a lot of things in the coming years. This happened at a point in time where LA was going to have to fight to be a part of the playoffs. They did so, but you could tell Bron was never quite himself for the rest of the season. Their low seeding forced them into playing a contender off rip. The Suns got him out of here for LeBron's first round exit of his entire career. Meanwhile, the Eastern Conference, and specifically the Milwaukee Bucks, who had fallen directly to Kawhi Leonard, benefited from their contention disappearance, and the Bucks, who have had members of this team say they were about to get cooked by a healthy Brooklyn squad, also benefited from there being no healthy Brooklyn squad. They were able to fight through a very weird year and make it to the NBA Finals, defeating the Phoenix Suns in what I will call one of the better playoff series that have been forgotten. We'll talk about it one day. At long last, the Bucks were on top. Giannis had been slated to take over the East for a while. Both LeBron and Kawhi were out west. Giannis had his throne for the moment, only things just never felt so solidified. The Nets were supposed to come back healthy. Miami still existed, being roughly one piece away from actually being taken seriously as a championship team. The Celtics were out there, poised to make a move to finally get over the hump. And of all these things in the 2022 title defense, it was injuries which would take them out. Yeah, Chris Middleton, right after having won a championship, began to show the first signs he wouldn't be reliable going forward. With no second star to take on the Celtics, who had been rejuvenated, Milwaukee fell in 7 after daring Grant Williams to beat them. Crazy way to go out, but the worst part is we now know it marked probably the end of the Giannis era in Milwaukee. Middleton never being able to be relied on again just kind of changed things for the entire era, even once they got Dame. So with the Bucks and Raptors failing to repeat, it was not the Boston Celtics who took advantage. Although they did make it to the NBA Finals, they were stamped out by the fury of Steph Curry. Now, this one does have some parts to it. We obviously remember it as the Warriors team who returned from the ashes. As a matter of fact, coming into the 2022 season, they weren't a popular pick. Clay off of multiple career-altering injuries. Roster looked okay, but nothing very special. Them winning the 2022 NBA Finals remains one of the more impressive titles in my book. So it's needless to say, it was an uphill battle repeating in the first place. And then they had two very specific things working against them. First of all, their own core piece punching one of their younger core pieces and kind of destroying morale right then and there. But then the 2020 draft also just didn't help. Yeah, out of the options they had, picking the one who just couldn't end up helping them in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, they had have gone a different direction. Maybe even these last couple of years would have been different. Who knows? Regardless, a couple of other West teams also returned healthy. And yeah, it was just always going to be uphill. One such team was the Denver Nuggets. Yeah, the story of the bubble. Unfortunately, they had not had a chance to author the sequel, as they made a great trade in 2021 and Jamal Murray got hurt weeks later. It came at the end of the season. It ruined any chance they had that year, any chance they had the next. And so 2023 was the first time for them to capitalize on expectations, and they would. After Golden State was handled by the Lakers, Denver began a long trend of handling them. Their team had been constructed beautifully. The only problem was, given the new CBA, everyone knew it was going to be hard to keep some core pieces. It was hard to keep some core pieces. It was truly a spectacle to watch. We're watching Bruce Brown do all these great things, knowing he is just probably not going to be there next year. And so we were already thinking, yeah, it's an uphill battle for Denver to repeat. And not only was their depth due to take a hit, they kind of got the same thing Golden State got, where a couple of teams were going to come back better, bigger. And yeah, that's what happened in the West. I'll never forget Denver fans being the first to see Minnesota on the horizon. Even though they beat them in the first round, it was competitive and they were missing key pieces. Coming to the 2024 playoffs, they wouldn't be missing those key pieces. And as a young upstart team, they immediately capitalized on the health, pulled off some of the more improbable feats you'll see against a defending champion, and thus the Denver Nuggets repeat hopes ended, while also still being victim to the CBA. Well, and a couple of very interesting decisions for their GM, but yeah, in 2 off seasons, they lost 2 core pieces. It's just one of those features that we'll talk about in a little bit, which kind of feels like it's making repeats more unlikely, even if teams are constructed in an ethical way. And so this led us to 2024, where another team was at the end of their process. The Boston Celtics had put the best possible supporting cast around the Jays. It really felt like a do or die year. And they answered the call most of the season. You get to the playoffs and you play a row of injured East teams. I hope it's not forgotten in 2024, Boston was probably going to the finals regardless. But nonetheless, the competition was never too impressive, even once they got to the finals. And they dominated, capping off a grueling process with Brown and Tatum, one of which were nearly traded during this whole thing. The challenge for them would be to come back and do it again. Do it against healthier competition, better competition, really prove it. A lot of title teams go through that, which is why I was really disappointed with their response as it was shaping up before the Achilles injury. They came back to an East which had improved. New York made moves specifically for him. Cleveland had a change in the coaching staff. They got way better. It was a better East, but one they still should have scaled. Even before that, though, there was talk of the new ownership and what they were going to do because of the money. It was known whether they lost in the first round or they repeated, there was going to be moves to change the roster. So after finally getting to the top, having this team together for 2 years, it was already becoming known that was it for them. At least these specific bodies. Not that the Jays couldn't keep contending, but this specific core was going to get 2 shots at it. Repeating is hard, man. It takes a lot of luck. The team has to actually want it. Championship hangover is a thing. The disease of more is a thing. It's destroyed a lot of repeat hopes in the past. But yes, the Celtics in the 24 playoffs in the second round looked like they were going out even before the injury. And man, there was some really confusing basketball being played. So for perspective on that section, you've got the Raptors, who really just couldn't have done anything to convince Kawhi to stay. Los Angeles picking up injury to LeBron and AD. Chris Middleton's premature exit from contention. Golden State definitely had some injuries on top of other things, but again, I really think even them winning in 2022 was such an accomplishment. A repeat was never super duper likely. That means in 2023, the Nuggets really were the first team of this cohort to really get hit by CBAs. Finally, the Celtics, as I just said, I think they are the one team of this group who really lost out on a repeat for more traditional reasons. I'm never going to be the one to point to the injury. I think even before then, if they had a magical comeback in that game and then went on to eliminate New York, I still don't think they were going to win the title this year. Not the way they were playing, not with Porzingis just kind of being there but not being there. No, that one was a lot more of the traditional things we've seen in the past, which funny enough, when you rewind the clock, the last team to not repeat for more traditional reasons, i.e. they straight up got beat, there wasn't anything super out of the ordinary, I really think that's the 2014 Spurs. Or rather, the 2015 Spurs trying to protect 14's title. Seriously, count back all those years and you will find something strange, whether it was a weird roster situation, injury, off-court item, something extracurricular with other teams. You really do have to dig back to find a team that just didn't repeat with really no help. And so the other part of this, I think you kind of see with the playoffs right now, it's just how teams are built. For the 2010s, it was the name of the game to go get 2 or 3 very recognizable star to superstar level players, figure out the rest of the roster, and just go overpower the league. So that dates back to the Celtics way back when, Miami getting their repeat out of it, the Warriors looking into their situation and getting their repeat. And the question often becomes, is that possible today? And because of what's happened recently, you're met with, no, you can't do that. It just doesn't work anymore. And I always try to remind people, injuries, I don't think, especially now in the 2020s, I just don't think they're a valid excuse anymore. They're so frequent. So many guys have just strains and sprains. There's a whole list of players who we just know probably can't make it through a full season anymore. I think now more than ever, injuries are just a part of the game, but they still do add context. And I'd like for NBA fandom to not forget the context that just a couple of years ago, or a few years ago, the Brooklyn Nets absolutely probably were going to win a championship if those guys could just stay on the floor together. That was as close to a 2010s experiment as I think you'll find. 3 of the best scoring creators in the league, maybe ever, tried to fill the roster out with some older veterans. It took them getting injured to hell to just narrowly lose out to the team that won the championship that year. Now, I know this isn't how the NBA works. There's matchups and such. I just wholeheartedly believe the Nets had a very good chance just 4 years ago to win the title with that type of setup. And like, if that same setup existed today, here in 2025, am I supposed to believe it just flat out wouldn't work? That being said, obviously building a team that way is just discouraged because although I think it can work, it for sure has its flaws now. For instance, you can just see in these 2025 playoffs the way Denver made OKC struggle. They ignored as many players that weren't Shai Gilgeous as they could, and it got them 7 games. You come around with a team today that has multiple stars, but then also the rest of the roster as a result becomes mostly ignorable. Now that's a fun conversation. Either way, there are 2 factors pretty clearly working against repeating teams or repeat attempting teams. One, as I always say on this channel, everything in life is optics. It doesn't matter what's true, it matters what people think. And right now, people think you can't win with those teams that, well, really the last teams that repeated. And 2, building those now is just really difficult and risky. So attached to that point, as you you've seen with the Nuggets, and as you were probably about to see with the Celtics, the window is also just really small. The one thing that does seem as if it's just over is what you saw with the Warriors, where they were able to go to so many finals in a row. They were able to lose in between and then still go back and repeat. At a minimum, it does seem like most teams will probably be in the situation of losing key players before that is able to happen. So the window is it's the year you win and the year after you win. That's really the window right now. The Celtics were not going to bring back this exact roster and run it back for another 2-3 years. It was having to happen in June, or it probably wasn't going to. Ironically, while parity does seem to be a bad thing for the league overall because most of the audience is casual and attaches to these dynasties, which are lightning rods for controversy, this is great for people who really interact with the league. At this point, it seems like a lot of people have forgotten what it was like to live through 4 years of Warriors Cavs, knowing that was probably the matchup as soon as you got to the end of one season, and then knowing it was extremely lopsided. Yeah, I can understand, especially from a casual fan perspective, how it might be hard to lock into really even the 4 teams that are up there right now. And with the way things are going, it could be 3 different teams next year. But that really is incredible. Nothing is too predictable. The most we can say right now is OKC probably should go ahead and finish the job. And even then, they're important to this because years down the line, they're gonna have to make decisions. Shea winning MVP puts him up for a gigantic contract. Now, of course, they've got a lot of young talent and a lot of picks, so for a team that may need to make decisions one day, they're in a beautiful position. It's the principle though. Teams without all that luxury, well, actually, you literally see the team they're playing with or against. The Wolves had financial decisions to get out ahead of, so they traded Cat for Randall. Listen to what I just said. That Wolves team we talked about had a first rounder with Denver when they weren't healthy, got to dethrone them the next year, and then immediately had to trade one of their core pieces. As you dig deeper and deeper, you really do understand why we're about to have a 7th different champion in 7 years, which has never happened. What do you think about the state of the league and parity, how teams are built, how they might build in the future to adapt? Let me know in the comment section. Also, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications every time a new video drops. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.